So thanks for joining, and I thought I would do this to see if we can. I'm going to have another webinar in a few minutes at 1:30, but for the clients, to see if we can convince some of our clients to actually remind them that we're still here and we can still provide interpretation services, just in a different way, right?
Absolutely.
Let me see. Somebody else just came in.
Yes.
Came in. One more.
Good morning.
Hi, Tharsis. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. So nice to see you.
Nice to meet you too.
See how many more people are. Okay. I can get a notice when other people come in.
Yeah.
So, can you see me? I don't know if you guys can see me.
Yeah, I see you.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Can you see my presentation?
Yeah, conference call interpretation. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So I'm learning at the same time as you guys. So I know that some of you already do conference interpreting for us on over the phone and on various platforms, especially with WebEx and so forth. But and I think I know some of you. I don't know if you guys have used Zoom at all, which we're using now. But Zoom actually did it back in November. Added a new feature that we can do interpretation with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to know if you guys have done it, and if not, maybe one of my ideas is that I can actually make a couple of mock meetings and invite whoever, and you guys can email me privately if you want to practice, and we can pretend that we're having a conference and we can practice using it, because that is what I'm trying to get a lot of our clients to use. And because I find that it's really easier for them to, somebody just came in, I just wanted with them. I find that it's really easy for the clients to use. A lot of the clients, for those of you that have done work with us on WebEx and so forth, sometimes it doesn't work very well if we're not very well prepared. Mm-hmm. And even though the federal government does use WebEx and that's their main thing that they want to use, I find that some of the older clients don't understand how to use WebEx in simultaneous interpretation services environment. They don't understand that they actually have to set up 2 meetings on WebEx. And the same thing was to go with GoToMeetings and Adobe Connect. You actually have to set up 2 different conferences, one for the English and one for the French. What Zoom does, you don't have to set up 2 conferences. It's all in the same meeting. Mm-hmm. And the interpreters get assigned. And I can show you in a few minutes that. I know that there's other platforms out there, and I don't know, I'm sure some of you have worked with them. There's Web Switcher that sells, belongs to the company that is outside, it's in Quebec. I think they're from Quebec City. There's also VoiceVoxer could do Interactio. These also connect through your phone. You can do conference calls and simultaneous interpretation, but they're mostly also for booths and for on-site. Mm-hmm. And when they do the conference call, it's still rerouted. So I find them a little bit cumbersome. That's my opinion. But because I know from experience that when we try and do conference calls, and sometimes with, especially with the audiovisual companies, the sound is not very good, and then they get the lines crossed, and then it's our fault at the end of the day, apparently. So I'm trying to go to our clients and say, okay, we can't be on site, but these are easy platforms that you already use, and everybody seems to be using Zoom nowadays. That you can utilize our services in our meetings there. Mm-hmm. Feel free to jump in if you have any questions at any time, guys.
Well,
Okay, this
I
is
don't know if you can
really
hear me.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, wow.
Long time no see.
Nancy, how are you doing?
Very well. I'm in the country doing my bees, working with my bees, and doing the occasional telephone conference. So it's not
There
too
you
bad.
go.
There was a recent, I don't know, notice or something that Zoom was not necessarily 100% secure,
Right.
depending on which customer, and it was routing calls through China or whatnot, and it seemed to be there was a security issue.
There was.
What about that?
Everybody read about that, and I think it's more the free app part. And this is why, if you notice that you guys, like, I had to admit you, those are the rooms, and then you can actually know exactly who is coming in, and they put a level of security for that.
Okay.
So you have to kind of, you have to pay for it.
Right, it's a paper use.
And I think that's the difference. Let me just admit someone else that just joined us. That's the difference between the paid version and the unpaid version, I guess.
Okay.
They did put out an email, somebody just, oh, here it is. Nope. Trying to see who joined us and needs to be in the room. Bear with me.
I'm here. I see you all and I can now hear you all.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good considering everything. How are you doing, Emma?
I'm good, Francis. I'm trying to admit somebody, user you. Okay.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
It's nice to have you.
Thank you.
And there's another one. Sorry, guys. Some people are coming in late. And I'm just trying to let them in. And that's part of, that's part of, hi Robert. That's part of that security that Merrick was talking about, is that so that the clients can actually manual this and take control of it, so that nobody comes into their meeting uninvited.
Robert, we can see your shorts.
I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about that in a couple of slides, and what we should do if we're going to do this interpretation this way.
Emma, I can share with you that I had some issues following the link to get in here. I was trying like right at 11 just before 11.
Did you?
I did, honestly. And so what I did is I had to forward the email to a Gmail account that I have. And then I was able to enter through Chrome. So it seems like Google Chrome, and I'm not sure about the other browsers, might be a little more stable for this sort of thing. And then I got in like right away.
I will make note of that and go and see on Zoom's Power thing which web browser is a little bit better. Thank you.
Okay, that's interesting, because I clicked on the link.
Yeah.
And it brought me via Firefox to a site where I had to download the app.
Oh.
And it did not ask me for the meeting ID or the password.
Wow.
Well, because when I sent you the link, the password is already embedded.
Ah, okay.
So there's two ways of doing meetings, and this is like, I already had embedded the password. Otherwise, but for people, and that's because you guys are joining in through the web, but if people wanted to call in, then they would need to put in the password.
Okay, got it.
Got it.
So those are the little bit of different things. And I at the end, and then I can forward you then a copy of the PowerPoint presentation, because it has, I've included some links that you guys might want to explore of the different platforms that provide conference calls, and that might support us in doing interpretation services. And so that, I'm trying not to also try and get our clients where we do face-to-face, not just necessarily simultaneously, but face-to-face to also consider using other platforms, either WebEx or Zoom or GoToMeetings or Adobe Connect, just to use our services that we can provide interpretation services this way for them. The other, so I already kind of mentioned that why WebEx for the government, and I guess it's like Merrick had said, I think that WebEx, because it is a platform, is a little bit more secure. But I do find, and this is by experience, and I don't know if you guys have, when you, those of you that have done interpretation services for us, like for Public Health of Canada, there's other departments, even though one department, which we've had now for 7 years, they're on it and they know what they're doing, and they can do it, set up the calls. Then we have the other departments that try and can never do it. And I don't know why. But I'm trying to, I do have some training this afternoon for them. And then surprisingly, we have a really big turnout for that webinar at 1:30 that I'm hosting. And they're all our clients that we've been providing interpretation services either on site and that we're trying to convert to online for now, or even, you know, for the future when they have a small meeting and they can't afford travel. Hey, we're still here and we can still provide them services, and that's what I want to sell them on. We'll try to.
Can I just say a word?
Yes, of course.
I've done some Zoom interpretation last week. One thing that is very, very important for everyone: a computer hooked up by cable to your router.
Thanks, Lucy. I was going to mention that in a couple of
That
slides.
is so, it makes such a difference. And the second thing also, you have to have a minimum of 50 megabytes per second upload and 10 megabytes download. So if you don't have that minimum, you can't really work from home doing that.
Exactly.
The second thing also, I did some webinar with recordings. The truck that cleans the street passed at the same time. It was recorded, so I had to redo the recording of those 2 minutes.
Okay.
Also, there's a way to record a Zoom. And also we had a technician on the Zoom thing. So what we were told is to shut our, to close our video, always stay muted, so that they have more bandwidth for whoever's doing the conference. I've done other teleconferences. Still, people don't understand not to use the Polycom. People still don't understand that, hey, go to Best Buy and get yourself a headset. I know many federal employees are reluctant because they say it's the employer that has to supply us with the equipment, but for God's sake, they just have to understand, they just have to get one.
They can order one.
And if they don't want to use, and they have to stop using speaker phones. That's
awful.
And they don't get it. They don't, and sometimes they say, oh, I'm not talking today, so I'm going to stand speakerphone and mute, and then 10 seconds afterwards they're the first one starting to talk. They really don't get it.
I know.
So that's my little 10 cents.
Thanks, Lucy. Nice to hear you.
I picked this up quickly to do some telephone conferencing. It works really well. It's a lapel mic.
Oh, that's awesome.
Those are, and I got it on not Best Buy, I'm sorry.
Amazon?
Amazon Prime.
I got myself a Yeti Nano.
Yeah.
It's the microphone for the bloggers.
Yeah.
The only thing that I didn't like with the Yeti Nano is that there's a port to put your headsets in the microphone. It gives you, it's not feedback, but you hear your own voice. So it's very difficult to do the interpretation if you hook your microphone into, your headset into the microphone. But this is done for bloggers and podcasters, which mean that this is the way for them to control their own voice.
Right.
But for interpreters, it's awful because you hear your own voice plus the client.
No.
Right. We don't want
So you
that.
have to you have to hook yourself in a different port, and sometimes whoever the technician is, they keep on insisting that you put your headset in the Yeti Nano, and it's impossible because it was not designed to do that. It was designed so you can actually have the feedback of your voice, so you can actually control your pitch, control your tone, control your speed, and it doesn't work well. So the microphone is wonderful for interpretation, but put your headsets in another port.
Can I ask the name of the lapel microphone?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Could you tell me the name of it again, please? Is it Senha? I just can't read it. It's too
Okay,
small.
I know it's the box is, as you can see, yellow and black. It is Power Dewise, DEWISE. It's a lavalier microphone, so LAVALIER.
Okay. Thank you.
It's made in China, designed in Europe, assembled in China.
Okay.
Thanks.
So I wanted to mention, please. I wanted to mention that I usually do conferences on Skype and Zoom. But I noticed that when two people are speaking at the same time, there are some interferences. So does it happen when you are doing simultaneous interpretation?
I don't know because I haven't done it, but and that's why with Zoom, I'll go actually to the next. I'll show you how it's set up, and I'll bring that's a really good question, Tharsis. And then maybe Lucy can also give some of her advice since she's done a couple now in Zoom. When you go into Zoom,
there's not much you can do. There's not much you can do. I mean, if two start at the same time, they have to learn, they call it the virtual etiquette. So they have to learn how to behave and how to work. So what happens is that when two talk at the same time, they stop, then there's a silence, and then someone will go in. So they have to, the client has to make sure that people understand the rule, and there's normally a moderator or president of the meeting. And this is normally the person that will say, okay, please go ahead now, it's yours. For the interpreters, the only thing we can say is either stay silent, because everyone knows it's you can hear it, or just say inaudible, inaudible pour l'interprète. And then you stop, and then you wait for them to start again.
With Zoom on the webinar section, what Zoom has they actually, I guess you can also, my understanding is that with Zoom, and if there is no operator, like if we go to schedule a meeting here, I'm going to try and do a mod on the setting, maybe on the settings. See if it'll let me. I just wanted to show you where when the clients are going to schedule a meeting, it will be something like this. And then when they have, and again, it has to be obviously a paid membership, and it actually has to be a business membership or above. So as you can see here, when the client wants to add interpreters on it, they have to enable interpretation. And my understanding is from what the little training videos that were like 2 hours long from Zoom, is that when the interpreter is invited. So say if I was going to put Tharsis in here, I would put Tharsis in your email, and then I would say he's going to go into English, and we're going to say, oh, it's the valid. I'm just gonna put a dummy email, Tharsis, just so it lets me move forward. And then I would say what language you were going to do. And then I would add another interpreter, say I'm going to do French, but then I would add another interpreter, and I would say, for example, it's Emma. And the links that Zoom creates for you is already what WebEx now, you know how WebEx, you have to do the 2 separate conference calls. My understanding is that Zoom automatically creates a link where for you, for Tharsis, that if he's going to do the French, and then, for example, Emma, I'm going to be doing the Portuguese. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
This is my understanding of how it works. And so it makes it a lot easier for the interpreters, and it'll make it easier for the clients, which is the most important thing. We just have to practice with it because it is new. My understanding is as well that if I'm going to be speaking with you, say interpreting in a meeting with you, Tharsis, I would just then send, me and you would have the capability of sending private notes to each other. So if I needed to go to the bathroom and you needed to take over or so forth, we would be able to communicate that and not have the participants look at it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Hello, Emma.
Yes. Hi.
Marie.
Hi, Marie. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. That's very interesting. I have nothing very intelligent to say, except that WebEx is most of the time hellish, and that this Zoom, to me, it seems very practical and simple. So I'm saying go for it.
This is what my understanding, that when I first, when I was looking at how it works by Zoom and how they were explaining it, I was a little excited because I know how WebEx can be a challenge, and not just for us interpreters. Honestly,
Oh, no.
You guys don't know what we go through at the office.
Oh, I imagine.
So. But so and like I said before, if you guys want to, I'm happy to set up mock meetings where we can and assign interpreters so that we can all practice.
That would be fantastic.
I'm happy to do that, and we can do it in different days and set it up different. It doesn't cost me anything else. The good thing with Zoom, it's not like many other platforms where you pay per meeting as well, is you pay a monthly subscription and you can do as many meetings as you want. So something that was Lucy had just mentioned, and it is about the landline, and this is really important. And I actually had to unhook my office computer to hook up my laptop, because this is the only one I have the camera, because we don't have cameras obviously in the office because of translation and security. But it is very important that we actually have a landline and not use Wi-Fi. And the other thing is not to use our cell phone. Our cell phone actually should just be as a backup, and it would be a backup for data. And when I say backup for data, is say that your internet went down, and then then you can get your cell phone data to work on your laptop.
Yeah, that's my issue here. I'm in the country in Shefford in Eastern Townships, and I grew up in the country. I'm used to electricity popping out anytime, and you never know when so it's like my paranoia is that I've got two cell phones, one with a really good data connection, so I got like 16 or something gigabytes, and I can hook up my computer that way. No, it's not going to conk out on me even for a second, because you know what happens usually, especially in Quebec. Hydro-Quebec likes to say, oh yeah, we're great at everything. Not in the country or not, because it can pop for just like half a second and you lose your connection or whatnot. You don't see it on the computer because it's not fast enough, but when your connection fails, it's like you lose everything and you're wondering what's going on. So yeah, just to say I agree with that.
It's right. So, and you know how then the microphone, because if you actually have to, like, your internet connection, and then you have your landline, because then your landline can be for hearing and so forth. And then you have your cell phone as a backup for data and so forth. And also, Merrick made a really good point because of electricity. You can also have and I know that these are all investments, but at the end of the day, you know, A, they're tax deductible, but B, there are tools, right, that allow us to work and more efficiently. We can always, you can always have a backup energy, like, you know, those power, what are they called? The power bar.
It's a battery backup, and it normally,
thank you, Lucy.
yeah, there's a good company that does them. I used them when I was in Brazil, and we had to use one.
Yeah.
So I had a
go ahead, Lucy.
20-minute, I can't remember if it was a 2-hour backup or a 20-minute backup.
Yeah.
So actually you don't lose anything. Though I do have a question for the phone landline.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we need a phone landline?
Because
I mean, this is possibly the only investment I will not make.
Okay.
Because I already have 2 cellular phone lines, and with Zoom we don't use a phone, only for WebEx.
No.
And WebEx, I'm trying to convince some clients to move away from it because of their landline situation.
Right.
I understand the landline for the end client because they're federal employees with a phone in their office, and they have to refrain from meeting all together in a meeting room, which they won't do anymore because of social distancing, which is nice. But they have to stay in their office and use their landline in their office. But for us, why do we still need to have a landline with Zoom?
Well, not with Zoom, but if with
Okay.
with WebEx, because
see.
you do have to, and you have to go back to not all clients are going to use Zooming, even though we might think it's amazing, and I think it's amazing, but and maybe industry clients will think it's amazing because it's way cheaper. But if when the reality is, for example, public health is not going to change from WebEx because they all have accounts, and so does the rest of the federal government. And because the way they're structured, that there's you actually have 2 different conference lines. So you actually, your landline, that should be your line. So if you're doing, for example, if you're doing the English to French, Lucy, your landline would be your French line because you're interpreting into French, and then you're hooked up to the computer, into the webinar, and receiving the sound from your computer, or in this case, last case scenario, like if you're only doing a conference call and not a webinar, your cell phone as a backup can be your listening line, if you know, but your interpretation line where you're providing the interpretation should be your landline.
Because I'm not quite sure if Bell Canada will come into any house to do the hookup nowadays.
I know.
Okay.
They actually, that's not correct. They actually do, because I heard yesterday on the phone, on the radio, that someone in Brampton, because they still come, but they go through a whole series of questions to make sure that you're not feeling any symptoms or you're not ill. Because I heard it on the radio. Some people said that they were feeling okay, and the bell or the cable guy came in, and then they called the next day and said someone was feeling symptoms, which was not nice, and the radio called them douchebags. So, anyways, but we're also like, this is not just for us now while we're all home and not able to leave our houses, but also as moving forward, that is a business plan, and how we can better service our clients and better provide service that is more affordable to them, that is, there's a greater variety, there's more services that we can provide, because let's be realistic, sometimes they don't, when they get the travel cost or they get the on-site cost, now that they've had a taste of how technology can make their life a lot easier and maybe less expensive, maybe this is more the way that they'll want to do meetings. So moving forward, maybe we can consider like the microphone, like the better microphone, like having the power backup, a good internet connection with at least high speed, and then the landline as a for all the conference calls that require two lines, because that is still going to be a reality. If you go back to what I put on Web Switcher and so forth, the other and VoiceBox could do Interactio. They all kind of, they all require that you have a landline. For example, if you go to Kudu, and I'll have it at the end of the presentation, they actually train interpreters. I don't know if you guys have to pay to be certified by them, but then they put you on a list to offer you work for their clients. And the way they work is that they all patch in the sound kind of like the same way that our audiovisual companies do, but you're working from home instead of being on site. So all those do require that you have a landline. If you go into Web Switcher, they require that you have a landline, a VoiceBoxer, Kudu, and Interactio. I have the instructions for all of those on how the interpreters connect and so forth. Because it's information that I wanted to provide to our clients as well, so that they're more informed of what's out there for them. Not just try and sell them, because I don't have stock in Zoom, even though we should have all bought a lot of stock in Zoom since January, because it just went very, very high. So that's that part. And of course, the other thing is we all know have our own quiet space and where there's no noise. And like Lucy, when you mentioned that the truck cleaner, and I know that's kind of hard to do, but we just have to be conscious, maybe make sure our windows are closed. I don't know. We can't.
No, it couldn't, I mean, all my windows were closed. Also, my blinds, I
Yeah.
also closed all the blinds.
Yeah.
So this muffled the echo in the room, because you're normally in the house, the ceiling and the walls are made of plaster.
Yeah.
And glass. So there's the echo of your voice in the room is also very disturbing. Sometimes I have to, and also what I've also noticed is with the recording, is I'm using Kosh headsets.
Right.
And because of the echo in the room, because of the plaster and the glass, I had to boost the voice of the speaker.
Oh, okay.
And on the recording, when I was listening back to myself,
Yeah.
I could hear the English mumbling on the recording.
Ah.
So
Were you on Zoom?
Sorry, I was on Zoom.
But were you being because you mentioned that you were being that you had an audio like a technician. Were you being patched in for like through another?
No, this was a webinar recording. So actually I was not interacting with anyone. So there was a technician that was filming the two guest speakers. It was an interview. I would at the same time do the simultaneous interpretation, recording my own voice on my computer.
Right.
At the end of the conference, I would listen back on, I would use the Audacity software and listen to my own voice and do a little bit of cleanup. Okay. I've learned to edit my voice. So doing a little bit of cleanup. And when I was listening to the first try we did, I could hear, because I had to boost the sound for the guest speaker because of the echo in the room. I could hear the mumbling, the English mumbling on the line. They didn't listen. I mean, when I sent the file to the technician, I mentioned it, and he said it was okay. So the next day I switched to a noise reduction headsets, and it settled the problem. So I could actually boost the voice of the speaker, and it didn't my microphone didn't record the mumbling.
See, I wonder if they use this new option that Zoom has, because my understanding when and I actually have a ticket open to Zoom because a client of ours is asking for it because they want to do a webinar, and My understanding is the Zoom can record automatically the English portion, but when it's interpretation, simultaneous interpretation, it can't. So my
Yeah,
question,
I was recording at home. So I
right,
was using my own computer to record my own voice. Then I would we had the Google Drive share drive, so I would just send my audio recording. Then the next day on the second one, they asked me to do my own editing, to clean my my own track. And this is when I saw that the mumbling coming from my headset
right.
was recorded on my by my microphone, but switching headsets was okay. I went to a Sennheiser. I have a HD 200 Pro. By coincidence, I had that for a different reason, and it worked well. But it's just that because of the echo of the plaster and the ceiling and the walls,
Yeah.
you have to boost a little bit the speaker's voice, because you actually can still hear your own voice, and it's very disturbing.
So
I mean, this was the trick I used.
that's thanks. Well, I have, like I said, my question is to see if we can, because if you actually, I think if you give permission for the interpreter to record when you're setting up the webinar, and that's what the question that I have out to Zoom, to their technical support. If the host or the client, which is the host of the meeting, gives the interpreter rights to record, and then you would be able to record that French. And otherwise, I was actually going to try it myself as well, because that, I think that is something important to the clients as well. And then it brings me to the other, I know, because we already have a client asking that question, if we can record ourselves in French.
So what they were I mean, in that setting that we used last week, I was recording my own voice and then sending the file.
Right. But this way,
and I had access, I also had a recording access for Zoom to record the original English.
Right.
Then I would use a conversion tool to change the M4A file format into an MP3 that I could actually re-listen to if I missed a bit, or if there was a silence on my own track, and I could do it. So it's a lot of manipulation, let's say. It would be nice if they could just record it, and without having the interpreters.
Well, with the English, they can just record automatically. I know, because you just record automatically, and you can and stop it, and it actually puts it on the web for you, and you can even go live with it for on Facebook and on YouTube. So it's really good for clients that way. But I am going to see if we can record our own interpretation, and then that goes, we had that discussion, me and Karen, actually yesterday, because we were doing an estimate for this particular client, and we're like, well, they're recording, so if they're recording, we're going to have to charge them a recording fee. So, and now we know that they're recording because it's on Zoom. So that's something else that then we'll update you guys, but to keep in mind as well. And then going back, yeah, and I know that the majority of you are doing simultaneous all the time. And the only reason I'm saying be truthful about your capabilities, because we had actually an incident last week. If we don't have the 2 lines, or if we don't know really how to do it, just let us know. And when I'm saying practice, I think now, since we're not all that busy, and we're not all out and working 8 hours a day interpreting and having long conferences, maybe it is a good time that we all practice our skills. And again, I'm happy to even set up a mock WebEx, but practice on Zoom. And if you guys are interested, and we can do Teams, and somebody can practice on how to switch channels, how to send messages to each other, and just pretend we're interpreting. Just no, we can just interpret different things, whatever we want, but just like have practice sessions, because by practicing and knowing the system really well, it makes us more efficient when we're doing it. And what I was also going to offer the clients is today when I do our webinars, because like I said, we have tons of people that signed up for it, is that if they're trying this new technology, that maybe we can just give them, if they want to try it out themselves and see if they can record and make sure, because the webinars, what Zoom does, it lets you practice for free certain sessions and the whole webinar without going live. And I was going to offer them a half an hour of our time so that they're comfortable with us, that we know, and we're comfortable with them. Obviously, after they signed up on the dotted line and they've confirmed our services. I was going to see if that would be something that they would be interested in, so that we can be more as a team for them and work with them more as a team. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that, if I should change it, but that's what I was going to try and offer them.
I think it's a great idea, Emma, to have, you know, practice sessions amongst ourselves to get us to do the onboarding to be, I've used Zoom quite a bit. I must say these past few weeks, mostly for social, everyone's using Zoom, right?
Yeah.
But in terms of interpreting on
Right.
Zoom, I would like to, I mean, I'm more than happy to do a trial or a mock handing over, that sort of a thing. I think it's a great idea. You know, and obviously if it's an actual booking with the client and interpreters are required to do testing at like testing the audio and everything and making sure that it's working ahead of time, I think it's a wonderful idea.
Thanks, Francis.
Yes, this is Marie. It is a wonderful idea. Hello, hello. So yeah, I'm all for it, really.
Okay.
For a practice, for a mock conference, for whatever practice.
Okay. So
yeah.
maybe I'll put some sessions, mock sessions for us, and then I can email you guys and just say, okay, I have these and these, and then you guys can sign up for whatever is convenient for you. And we won't make them long, but we can even try with different languages. So of, you know, of going from one language to another, using the chat between us and saying, you know, I have to go to the bathroom or something. So that, because in reality, those things do happen when we're doing conference calls. You know, we all need to go to the bathroom, especially if it goes too long, right? Or if you're, you know, it's somebody else's turn. If we're doing a whole day of English and French into English, and it's two of you, and well, it'll kind of be the same thing. When do you pass yourself? When do you stop from, and when do you want to take a break and your colleague takes over? Just the same thing you would do in the booth. And then by chatting with each other and practicing, and know that you can do that, you know, effortlessly and fluently, it will be better for the client. And then at the end, it'll be better for us to provide the service to the client.
Yeah, I already do that with another coworker, because we've had to do this tangent, if you want, for like 3-hour conferences. No, I'm not going to do it alone. I don't think anybody should.
Exactly.
And what we've done is I know she's using, no, we're both on Windows. There's like the app where you've got like essentially a clock. You can, or you use the clock on your computer. You just display it so that it sees the seconds as well, because not all Microsoft time is not the same apparently for every computer. So you can have up to 10 or 5-second difference between them. Yeah. So you check out when one of them is at, say, at 00, and what time you're at, let's say. Yeah. And you agree, okay, 15 minutes, 20 minutes at this, when your clock's at 5 seconds past, you take. Unless, of course, when you're listening to what's going on with the interpretation, if they're in the middle of a sentence, you let them finish their sentence, and you switch at that time. So you've got to figure out your timing with the person. It's just, you know, it's like when you're in the booth, when you're calculating your 20 or your 30 minutes, depending on how you're working, you look at the clock and you know how much time you've been doing.
That's the way Interprify works.
Interprify.
Yeah, Interprify it's a software, and it works. You have 2 windows, and then you have your own, and there's a countdown, and that tells you like 5, 3, 3, and then to 1, 0, and then the other interpreter can take on.
Oh, is it called Interpreter Fine, Gabriel?
Interprefy.
Interprefy. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Right.
Interprefy, yeah.
There,
It works
there-
very well. That was I did 2 days on that with another interpreter from Ottawa, and it worked.
Okay.
It worked very well.
That's that's another this like one of the other what's it called?
Voice boxer, maybe.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's very similar to that.
And then you're on the internet and you
Right.
use your Sennheiser, and then
Right.
you don't have to, you know, the landline.
Yeah.
I agree with Lucy. The landline is an issue. I live out in the country, and
I know.
it's just no longer an option for me. I can't get it anymore. It just didn't work. Every time it rained, like I was out of all luck, so I couldn't count on it. So I just got rid of it.
What we do in the office, we actually don't have, and maybe this is something you guys want to explore, because you guys are right. When we don't live in the city, and so and it can become a problem. Is have what we do in the office is we have 2 different kind of internet service providers. You might want to consider that. So we have our office. So our IT company that looks after us has our office line, our phones. He has them dedicated on one of the internet providers, and then we have our other our internet on another one. And it's also used, and it's also handy if one goes, and they're 2 different companies. One is Rogers, and I don't know who the other one was. I think it's Bell. But they have them both. So if Rogers goes down, they automatically switch us over, and then maybe we'll be slow on our emails and so forth, but at least we're still working, and vice versa. But at least then we have 2 different service providers. Does that make sense? But I don't know if that, or at least you would have to.
Not an option for me in the country, but
Not really.
Yeah, it's a voice over IP system. This is what the federal government use. So
Yeah.
when you have the Northwest Territory, Nunavut, and Yukon participate in the pan-Canadian phone call,
Yeah.
that the reason why they break, or you hear the snippets, they're using a satellite connection. They have no more wires over there,
I know.
and they're still using the voice over IP. Though when it's voice over IP from Ottawa, it's not too bad. It's just anytime you have one of the territories, this is where everything goes. I mean, it hurts to listen to them, and then we lose them. So it's the voice over IP. I'm not quite sure if we can, if a residential setting can have a voice over IP phone.
Yeah, we can.
You can.
Yeah,
You can.
that's what I have at home, actually.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've got an application called Magic Jack,
There's something.
which
I remember
Yeah.
that one.
But
it works well.
It disappeared.
Yeah.
It disappeared from the App Store.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. There's a different one. I think at home I have a different one, but that's how our phone is at home. Is a VIOP. But
Yeah, I'm going to investigate this one, because I really don't think, I mean, it depends on the business volume.
exactly.
If I get a good business volume, then yes, having a landline is worth it.
Right.
Though if it's only the occasional 1 or 2 WebEx per month.
And these are just ideas, and we're just exploring different ideas and working out with each other. And that was my whole point, is that so that we can share, and that because at the end of the day, we are all a team, right? Even though we're all in our own little space and so forth, but we are in the same industry, and we can bounce off ideas of each other, because we all can learn from each other.
I had a question about recording. What's the point of recording what we are interpreting?
Some of our clients, like this particular client, they wanted the French part of the webinar, which would be the interpretation, made available for their francophone employees and guests, I guess.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So, and then I just put here, and also I'll email you guys the links to it, which has a little bit more about Zoom, but everybody kind of knows where Zoom starts. There's Voice Boxer, the Kado, Web Switcher, and of course WebEx, so that if you want to learn more about and explore it yourselves, you can, instead of searching and then maybe you guys if you're like me, I forget what people tell me and I'm going, what is it? So I have to go and look online. I know that one of our colleagues, an interpreter, she sent me, she was taking a course with someone else about working from home and so forth, and she sent me, she shared with me one of the resources. I was going to take snippets of it and then email you guys, because it was actually a really good resource on how to better set up your office at home and how to better work at home. And I found it really fascinating. She sent me a copy a couple of days ago, so I was going to take parts of it and just share it with you guys, and then see if it gives you any ideas or if it's useful at all.
Sure. Thank you.
Oh, okay. So if nobody has any other questions, I'm gonna say goodbye. It was so nice to talk to you guys, and I'm going to set up some mock conferences, and then send the details to you guys, and then if you guys want to sign up, and other people even refer it to other colleagues, and we can practice.
Cool.
Sounds great.
Thank you,
That's a
Emma.
good idea.
Thank
I
you.
just
Thank
have
you,
a
Emma, for
question
organizing this.
Sounds great.
for these mock sessions. Do we need to have the landline already, or is that
No, I would.
Okay.
If I was going to do the mock sessions, we'll do them on Zoom.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so and then it's just for you guys really to practice how to switch and talk to each other and so forth. If you're going to do it and you're going to interpret in French or Spanish, I won't understand a word anyways you guys say. Okay, I'll leave it to you guys.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thanks, Emma. Have a good day.
Take care, everybody.
Bye. Bye.
Stay
Bye.
safe.
Bye.
Bye.
Ciao.
Bye.
Mhm.